Let's take a look at this. Here's Rick Santorum opposing the Lawrence v. Texas decision that struck down anti-sodomy laws. Here he is early this year defending his initial opposition, which he was criticized heavily for. Let's watch.
I said if the Supreme Court says that you have the right to consensual sexual activity, then you have the right to incest, you have the right to polygamy, you have the right to all of these other sexual variations. And so the gay community said, he's comparing gay sex to incest and polygamy. How dare he do this? And they have gone out on I would argue, the jihad against Rick Santorum since then.
Okay, I'll give you first shot at that, Robert. What do you think he's saying there?
I think what he's saying is that there's not a right to privacy under the Constitution, and thus in the process, if you don't have the right to do certain things in your home, from a legal standpoint, he's kind of right. I mean, the word privacy is nowhere in the Constitution. However, and let me be very clear about this, Chris, I am a gay person. I am openly gay and I am out. I believe I have the right under the Constitution, this is me speaking here, to obviously to fall in love and to be with whomever I choose to. So that's where I just
Where's he on that? Where's he on what you just said? Where's Santorum on that?
I'm sorry?
Where's Santorum on what you just said? Did he agree with your right to do what you just said, to have your own orientation and to act on it?
I believe Senator Santorum believes in that. Where we disagree with is he believes that obviously I should not have the right to marry, and I fundamentally disagree with him on that.
No, doesn't he go further and say that you should not be allowed to be gay in any actual way?
Oh, absolutely not.
Doesn't he say that pretty much?
No, absolutely not.
I understand. He said he has your right to your identity, but not to your behavior.
Well, look, you need to ask Rick Santorum about that, but I've worked for him for 10 years. I was openly out to him. I never, ever heard him say anything remotely like that at all.
Okay, so he's never come out against gay basic sexual behavior. He's never had a problem with that.
Again, you have to ask him specifically, but I've never, ever heard him say anything like that. And let me just be very clear about this, because this is something that's very personal to me. If, in fact, I ever heard him say anything like that, if, in fact, I ever thought he thought that, I would never work for him. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
You're in a good position, Robert, to explicate him here on television. I'm glad you're a guest. You seem to agree that he has constitutional differences with liberals, obviously on the right to privacy. He's more with Judge Bork on that. You argue that he's not anti-gay in terms of identity. Well, where is his disagreement with the gay community? Why do they really go after him all the time? What's the issue there?
Because he speaks very passionately. Because he speaks very passionately about the fact that he believes that gays and lesbians should not marry. He believes in the sanctity of marriage. He believes that marriage should be defined by one man and one woman, and that's obviously something that runs counter to folks that are like me that happen to fall in love with someone of the same sex. That is a major, major disagreement that a lot of gays and lesbians feel towards Senator Santorum. I can understand.
Does he believe that people like you have a right to serve the country with open orientation?
When you say serve the country, you mean in the military?
Yes. Don't ask, don't tell. Where's he on that?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know? I thought you might. Let me go back to, let's take another issue, the hawkish position. Let's take a look at some, we don't have time. What do you make of all this? Is this going to become an issue with him and the other conservatives?
Of course it is, Chris. And Robert is saying that his boss was a decent man who didn't discriminate against him. And that's well and good. But what we're talking about as a country right now is what Santorum believes in terms of public policy. And he's always been out there on these issues. It's sort of a big government conservatism, saying government can constrain and direct the morals of the people, whether that was the faith-based initiative he did, whether it was welfare reform, whether it was Terry Schiavo and gay rights. There's a whole long list of this where he says government should be able to tell people what sort of moral behavior is acceptable and is not. That's really not something that's in the mainstream of our debate right now.
Well, can I respond to that? Hold on. I need to respond to that. Because Senator Santorum, when I worked for him, he would use your argument, Mark, and say, well, wait a minute, the government does have a responsibility from a moral standpoint to sometimes tell us when we're wrong. He said he makes that example when it comes to slavery. He makes that example when it comes to the persecution of African Americans during the civil rights movement. So there's been many a times when, and again, this is what the senator would say, many a times when the government had the right and should have the right to intervene and telling us that we were wrong in terms of how we were living our lives from a society standpoint.